I never thought I'd see my life's work go up in flames at 2 in the morning, but there I was, barefoot on the gravel of my driveway, watching 30 years of blood and sweat curl into black smoke above the barn. The flames licked skyward, orange against the dark, and every crack of wood splitting open was like a bullet fired straight into my chest. Most people would have run for a hose or called the fire department immediately. I didn't. My hands shook as I lifted my phone, not to dial 911, but to record. Because I knew exactly who had orchestrated this, and I intended to make sure no one ever forgot it. Her name was Carol Bishop, the president of our homeowners association. If power were a drug, Carol was a lifelong addict. She didn't just run board meetings, she staged them like theater productions, with color-coded folders, charts on easels, and concerned residents who were nothing more than puppets nodding in the audience. On paper, she was the embodiment of civic responsibility. In reality, she was a predator hiding behind bylaws and polite smiles. I'd seen her tear down neighbors before me. One family with an old RV parked in their driveway. Another couple who painted their fence the wrong shade of beige. Each time, Carol swooped in with notices, fines, and a community standards committee until people either paid up or packed up. Her power came not from respect but from fear, but she'd never come up against someone like me. My name is Daniel Rourke. I'm 58 years old, a widower, and the last farmer left in a neighborhood that used to be all farmland. My wife, Ellen, passed away 7 years ago. She made me swear that I'd never sell our land to developers. This place feeds people, she whispered when she was fading. Don't let them pave it over for profit. Every morning since, I've brewed 2 cups of coffee. One for me, one for her. I'd sit by the little garden she planted behind the house, set her cup on the bench beside me, and tell her about the crops, the weather, the stubborn raccoon who kept raiding the melons. It kept me going when grief tried to bury me. Carol hated that garden. She saw it as a symbol of defiance. To her, my land wasn't soil and memory. It was acreage that could become 40 luxury homes. And she was willing to break me to get it. It started with zoning complaints, agricultural activity in a residential zone. Then came safety hazards, eyesore violations. Even rumors whispered that I was unstable, talking to flowers like a lunatic. I thought I could ignore it, thought people would see through her. Instead, the neighborhood turned on me. Parents stopped letting their kids help with the pumpkin patch. Church friends kept their distance. Even the mail carrier began dropping parcels at the gate instead of walking up the drive. Isolation was Carol's favorite weapon. What she didn't know was that I wasn't just a farmer. For 30 years, I'd been a fire investigator for the county, specializing in arson. I'd walked through more burned-out homes than I could count, studied burn patterns, accelerants, timing devices. I knew exactly how criminals thought when they wanted fire to look like an accident. And I knew Carol was preparing for more than paperwork. The first clue was the figure on my security camera, black clothes, moving with deliberate caution around the edge of my field, pausing to study angles like someone rehearsing. Not a prowler, not a teen messing around. Reconnaissance. That night, I called a man I hadn't spoken to in years. Eddie, I said when he picked up, I need your help, and this has to stay off the record. Eddie Morales had been my partner back in the day, now retired FBI. He didn't ask questions. Within a week, my barn looked like a command center. Thermal cameras hidden in the tree line. Directional microphones disguised as birdhouses. A server rack uploading everything to a secure cloud. I may have looked like a broken widower, but I was setting a trap. Carol thought she was clever, hiding behind committees and official letters, but arrogance makes people sloppy. I watched from my monitors as she whispered to contractors in her driveway, handing them papers under the cover of night. I heard her voice. Sometimes accidents prevent bigger disasters, as she pressured one poor builder into helping her. He looked like he wanted to vomit. Then came the night she crossed the line. 2 figures crept onto my land after midnight. The thermal feed lit up their faces, plain as day, Carol and the contractor. They carried cans of industrial degreaser, an accelerant I'd seen a dozen times before, placing it in neat pools along the walls of my barn, She even set crude timing devices to mimic an electrical fire. I sat in the dark, headset on, watching every move, recording every word. My heart pounded not with fear, but with cold fury. At 2:15 a.m., the devices clicked and the fire roared to life. That's when I made my call, not to local volunteers, but to Chief Landon of the State Fire Marshal's office. "Landon," I said evenly, "this is Daniel Rourke. I've got an active arson in progress. Suspects identified, full video and audio evidence. I need your team, not the local bucket brigade." He knew me well enough not to doubt a word. By the time neighbors woke to the glow and sirens, investigators were already on site, treating my farm like a federal crime scene. UV lights revealed trails of accelerant glowing purple against charred wood. Forensics techs bagged fragments of the timing devices, and my surveillance footage showed Carol Bishop, HOA president, spreading accelerant with her own hands. The next hours were almost surreal. I watched from my porch as investigators crossed the street to her perfect colonial house, where she opened the door in a bathrobe, face arranged in mock concern. "Officers, thank God you're here," she said. "Poor Mr. Rourke, such a tragedy." She played her role well, but I could see the flicker in her eyes when they began asking about her car, still warm in the driveway, about her internet searches for undetectable accelerants, about the cans of degreaser purchased with her credit card, captured on store cameras. Her voice faltered. She tried to spin excuses, but the net was already tight around her. The killing blow came from her own daughter, Emily, a college senior who'd been suspicious for weeks. Emily handed over recordings of her mother practicing lies in the bathroom mirror, research notes on ignition methods, even a whispered conversation about how Daniel needs to be removed as an obstacle. When investigators played that tape, Carol's mask shattered. She shrieked about conspiracies, deepfakes, persecution. The Ring doorbell camera captured every second of her meltdown. The neighborhood was stunned. People who had parroted Carol's talking points days earlier now gaped at the evidence. At a hastily arranged community meeting, Emily stood trembling but resolute, laying out her mother's crimes while the footage played on a projector. The silence in that room was heavy enough to choke. Then came the anger, directed not at me, but at the woman who had manipulated them all. Federal agents arrested Carol and the contractor on charges of arson, conspiracy, and fraud. She never admitted guilt. Even at sentencing, she claimed she was a victim of persecution, that I had framed her. The judge didn't buy it. 25 years in federal prison, $500,000 in restitution, permanent revocation of her real estate license. You'd think that would be the end, but evil leaves scars. Her husband divorced her. Her children cut ties. The HOA she once ruled was restructured into a transparent body with rotating leadership. No more lifetime thrones for tyrants. The community even converted Carol's foreclosed house into a civic center where meetings were recorded and open to all. As for me, neighbors began to trickle back, ashamed and apologetic. Mrs. Cooper brought pies and tears, whispering, "I should have believed you." Parents encouraged their kids to help me plant corn again. Laughter filling fields that had felt like graveyards months before. In spring, we dedicated Ellen's garden as a community space, with a plaque that read, "In memory of kindness, stronger than fear." 5 years later, I thought I'd finally closed that chapter. Then a letter arrived from federal prison. The handwriting was hers. Just one line. "The student becomes the teacher. Check your property taxes." My hands trembled as I held it. It meant Carol hadn't been acting alone. There were deeper schemes, other victims, more rot under the surface of our community than anyone imagined. I called the investigators immediately, because I'd learned my lesson well. Evil doesn't stop when the handcuffs close. It waits, it festers, it finds cracks. But so do I. And I'll never again let comfort silence courage. Sometimes the best revenge isn't fighting fire with fire. It's standing steady, gathering proof, and watching arrogance hang itself with its own rope. And if Carol Bishop ever thought I'd let her destroy Ellen's garden, she underestimated the one thing she could never manipulate, a promise made to the dead.